Well, hello there. Howdy. Welcome back to Raw Gray Matter. Just want to show you the start of this. Got the whole front end just burned off perfectly. Um, I hope everyone's day was great. My day was pretty fantastic. Got some good reading done in the book. Got some crazy things to talk about today. It's basically so after the last video, I was right starting that paper, right? And I had ended like I had this one like thought tangent, right? I wanted to connect it to like indigenous cultures of like around the world, like the Aboriginal creation story, Native American creation stories, tribes in Africa creation stories, and like tie that all together. So that sent me down a fucking rabbit hole, of course, right? And probably into like um Carl Jung, like Jungian psychology, shit like that, right? And Mary Louise Fons, she got some crazy books, and like that shit led me down to a rabbit hole where she co-authored a book with Carl Jung's like late wife. Like she died before she finished the book, so out of respect, Carl didn't like touch his wife's work. Right, he had Marie do it. Like he asked her if she would do it, and she like felt honored. Blah blah blah. She did it. Crazy, and it was the Holy Grail, about the Holy Grail, because his wife Emma spent her whole life studying the Holy Grail, right? And more or less, like the story of the Holy Grail is just like ties into like the whole one consciousness thing. Like, your body is the Holy Grail. It's like a mindset thing, and like achieving enlightenment type. Because like, I've been also listening to a lot of Neville Goddard, right, or Neville, and he talks about, um, how like the translation of the the and Christ dwelt among us, right? That translation is wrong. Like it's not among, it's in, and so it's Christ who has like dwelt in us, because we all have the same amount of God in us, right? Because we are all the same. Like so, this kind of we go to like Plato, like Plato's philosophy, right? Platoism, and he like talks about how there's like what we see, right? Like in this rendition, right? Like this form, this particular, right? And then like I'm a particular human. There's a particular type of horse, right? But they're all embodying a more perfect version, right, of the concept. And then it scales up to a higher form, and then to the form of like good, which is source absolute. And um, so like I'm absolute in a human. You're absolute in a human, right? The dog is absolute in a dog, right? And there's different scales, right? Different things that come through because there's there's so many possibilities. Constantly, there's so many emotions. There's so many possibilities for everything, right? Like so many, because absolute is way bigger than we can comprehend, and that's how it's supposed to be. Like you don't have to wrap your head around it. You're not supposed to wrap your head around it. And if you think you've wrapped your head around it, you haven't. Um, that's the conundrum. And I saw this guy on TikTok today, Hermes the Cynic, um, and literally like everything he's posted the past like day, like all of his recent videos are like the exact same thoughts I've had. And it just goes to show that there is no thing as an original thought really. It's just an amalgamation, right? If you've read the dictionary, every other book's a remix, right? And we're all the same thing. There's like collective consciousness, right? And then like you can have your own individual, interpretations and shit, right? And you can have your own like renditions of thoughts, of course, right? There is some type of individualization, right? Because everybody has their own unique experience. But just like on like in Fight Club, right? They say like on a long enough um, time span, like the survival rate of everything drops to zero, right? Like on a long enough time span, everything's been thought of in one way or another. So we can all have like individual creative takes, but we're all like hitting on the same topic. You know what I'm saying? But like the one thing he was talking about with the NFTs too, in his fucking little one, ties in so much to what we're doing with our crypto and like our platform. And like he brought up some other good ideas that we're gonna fucking be able to tie in to our shit because like I've wanted this project to be done for so long, right? And like I was really disappointed in like the first when it when it failed, not failed, but like didn't get its legs when I wanted it to, right? Like the times I tried before and it fell on its face, right? Like I tried to stand up, my leg, right, weren't there. Um, but I'm really glad none of those worked out the way I had planned because it was not what I really wanted to be. It would have caused way more headache in the long run. And yeah, like that's like the art of like not trying, right? Like you you try your best and then whatever happens happens, right? You can't be tied attached to the end result. Well, I mean you can, but that's what leads to sadness because you can never you know control fuck outside influences, and most of life is outside influences, right? Happening to us. We didn't ask to get born, asked to get born, or like whatever, right? It just happened, and like you're pretty like up to your parents' mercy for like right at the beginning of your life. And of course, the time varies on like how long people, have parents and, like how in depth all that shit is and whatnot, but circumstances. But like, we're really helpless for like the really important part of our life. And that really like shapes our experience for the rest of it. And that shit's crazy. And there's nothing you can do to fix the past. You just gotta like realize it and like start to make progress and want to make progress forward. Um, but little shit in here I wanted to talk about because like all this shit can get really crazy, right? Like spirituality and like like trying to be like pious or right, wanting to be right or wrong, right? Like it's a super big deal in life. Like being like you want to be observed. You want to do things that are seen as good set by society, right? So other people perceive you as good, right? It doesn't matter how you really feel on the inside. It's just what you want people to think. of you as, right? And when you like stop caring, right? And you just like act for yourself and you do what's like good for you, right? And there's a difference like between like being like selfish good for you and like things that are good for you and good for everybody else. Right? Like you don't want to be a cutthroat bastard. Like that gets you nowhere in life in the long run. Because money isn't the key to happiness, right? And if money is what you want, then you're gonna be real fucking disappointed one day. Because not only is money like a fake concept, like material things don't satisfy you. And like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Um, kind of like touches on that, right? Where like it's hard for us to grasp that concept because we have to have certain needs met before we can start to like think certain thoughts normally, right? Or like I don't know, just Google it, look it up. What was I gonna read in here? Um, okay. One who abhors sense objects becomes non-attached, and one who covets them becomes attached to them. But he who does not accept or reject is neither unattached nor attached. All right, and so for the in-depth definition for non-attached, it's and therefore renounces. This attempt at renunciation shows that the aspirant has not realized all as the self. And then the but he is this indicates a higher state in which all is realized as the self. Therefore, there is therefore no thought of accepting or rejecting anything. So it's like you don't get tied to it, right? Um, and then as long as desire continues, which is the root of the state of indiscrimination, there will verily be the sense of attachment and aversion, which is the branch and shoot of the tree of samsara, which talks about like the fucking. I shouldn't have fucking read that one. That one is fucking in depth. All right. So the witch so the witch is the root, right? Desire robs us of the power of understanding the true nature of the world. It makes us consider the unreal to be real and the real to be unreal. When desire goes, all things appear to us as they really are. And then attachment, wanting certain things and rejecting others. And then branch, the trunk and root of the tree of the samsara, phenomenal life, with all its subjective and objective implications, is ignorance. Desire, which makes us want certain things and reject others, is as it were his branches and shoots, which make the tree grow more and more. One desire leads to another, and thus karma grows complex and leads us from birth to death, and from death to birth. Right? Oh, and then on the whole thing about karma, right? Like we always like put karma and as like a thing, right? Like the want to do good. And in here they talk about how like good ties you the fact that if there's good there has to be evil, right? Like there's a good decision and a bad decision, so you want to pick the good one, um, instead of being in tune with the self and doing what is overall good. You know what I mean? Like, because like the goal of like enlightenment is to allow I think, right? I'm preface with this is what I'm thinking, like currently at the moment. Um, like enlightenment's like when you allow the consciousness to act freely and do what it needs to do, right? Like because this body, this experience, everything is just a vessel. It's just an experience. It's it's short, right? Like this isn't it, right? Um, and like you get away from your thoughts, right? Like because you don't need your thoughts, right? Your thoughts are part of this experience, right? Like that's part of like your thoughts are worldly, right? So when you are tied to your thoughts and you allow things to work its course, right? Things to come in and things to happen, and you just go with the flow and you just go off energy, right? That's allowing one consciousness to enact. And I don't know if you do that, you'll be happy. And the shitty part is the system isn't set up to do that, right? You got to go fucking work a shitty job so you can pay all these bills. And you can't be like, oh, well, how could I think about and worry about this shit? I got all this shit to worry about. That's why it's set up like this. You can't just go fucking exist and be happy. Like there's the whole thing about like usury is like one of the biggest sins, right? Like that is like Satan almost. Like it's in the like early part. Neville Goddard talks about it in like some of his lectures. I think I like them on YouTube. Um, I'll try to get a reference for the next video. But he talks about like usury and like that's like giving with the intent of return, right? And like you just have to be like Jesus' teachings, right? We're like always about like giving with like nothing in return, right? Like unconditional love and like you do things without worrying about the return, right? And then usury is like lending with um the intent of like personal gain and like the whole like money lending systems like built on that. Like the whole monetary system is really like we have to like get away from that to really like reach this as a culture. But that shit tough. Don't have to be step by step, but I want to be able to do my best to shit get us there one way or another, motherfuckers. And then I'm really excited. Tomorrow, I'm gonna talk to one of my favorite podcast hosts, Mr. Mark of the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. He asks such good questions. I love his questions he asks. Um, like they're the questions I want asked of the people. I mean, not all the questions I want to ask. Like I want to interview them myself. You know what I mean? But very similar train of thought. And I think we're gonna call that a day on that one. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow. I'm very excited to talk about this. Splooch and how I'm trying to do this. Wow, this is inception here. All right. Well, I'm gonna call it a day now. I appreciate anybody that listens to these ramblings. Um, we out here.